head coaching hires in the National Football League because Jim Harbaugh is the new head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers. Raheem Morris has taken what we thought would have been Bill Belichick's job in Atlanta, as well as Dave Canales, so would have been out of left field there, joining the Carolina Panthers, former Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive coordinator. And as we already mentioned, Ben Johnson has withdrawn his name out of the hat for both of the Commanders and the Seahawks. So, Josh, your thoughts on these hires?
I don't have too much to say about Dave Canales to Carolina because the Panthers are an absolute mess right now. So until David Tepper is out as the Panthers owner, I think Carolina is going to continue to be a mess. I'll be more interested to see who Atlanta hires as their offensive coordinator because I have a feeling Raheem Morris is going to call the defense for the Falcons. So I want to know who their offensive coordinator is going to be. But Jim Harbaugh going to the Chargers. This is what we all thought was going to happen. And I want to see what the pairing is like between him and Justin Herbert. Is he able to get Herbert to the level that we all think Justin Herbert can be at? And think about what the offensive pieces that Harbaugh has to work with. He's got Austin Eckler at running back. He's got Keenan Allen at wide receiver. He's got Mike Williams at wide receiver. He has the capability to get this Chargers team to be a legit contender. Now, obviously, in order to be a legit contender, you got to knock off the Kansas City Chiefs. So we'll see about that. But I'm very interested in what Harbaugh brings to the defensive side for the Chargers.
Interesting.
Think about what the Chargers have on defense. You got Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack. No, they traded J.C. Jackson. They got Derwin James. So they have some decent pieces on defense. Can Harbaugh lift that defense up to where we think it should be? Because we know what the offense can do for the Chargers if they have the right coach in place, which Brandon Staley was not, obviously. But
yeah, I apologize. There, folks. I had a quick interruption. I had to go off camera there for about 30 seconds. But, Mr. Unger, I am very interested here to see what Jim Harbaugh does with the Chargers because I believe Jim Harbaugh could be the guy to lead the Los Angeles Chargers back to Providence, back to the Super Bowl. Jim Harbaugh, I don't count him as an offensive-minded head coach, even though he is. I don't count him as a defensive head coach. He's a lot like John Harbaugh, where he's just a flat-out leader of men. He is a head football coach. He's a grinder, and his teams are going to be physical. And that's what I think the Chargers need. You mentioned the pieces they have on defense. I think they're going to move off one of Khalil Mack or Joey Bosa. I would guess more than likely Khalil Mack. They need to get younger on defense. Asante Samuel is a nice young corner. They don't really have a ton of great corners. They need to go out. They need to get a center. I assume Corey Linsley is going to retire. But outside of that, they have everything in place. Jim's defensive coordinator from Michigan is coming over to be their defensive coordinator. We will see who their offensive coordinator is going to be, as Kellen Moore is officially the new offensive coordinator of my Philadelphia Eagles. On the Carolina side, I found the Dave Canales hire certainly interesting. Dave Canales helped with your guy, Geno Smith, and his reclamation project in Seattle 2 years ago, helped out with Baker Mayfield this year. And so we'll see if he can get Bryce Young back on track. Carolina needs to go out and spend a boatload of money on free agency, whether it's weapons and offensive line. Maybe you trade a Brian Burns or a Jeremy Chin. Get more draft picks. They need to invest all their resources on the offensive side of the ball.
But who's going to want to play for the Panthers with David Tepper as the owner? That's That's my
I
biggest
I
issue.
don't think that's a big deal as you think. I think ownership is more of a big deal for coaches than it is players. Players don't care. Players don't have to deal with the owner. They mostly deal with the coaches. I mean, the Browns had a circus of coaches. Why? Because they were bad teams and bad coaches. Jimmy Asselman isn't necessarily a great owner. Jerry Jones isn't a great owner. It's a circus down in Dallas, but a lot of people want to play for the Cowboys. You start winning, they're going to want to play for you. That's going to be Dave Canales' job, and if he can get Bryce Young back up to speed. Atlanta is the interesting one because, by all accounts, Raheem Morris is a very good leader of men, very good head coach, but he's got to get the quarterback right. And who will his offensive coordinator be to help lift that quarterback? I don't think
Which
they're
is
going to be in.
exactly what I was saying while you took your break.
I don't think they're going to be in striking distance for Bo Nix. I don't think they're going to be in striking distance for, Michael Penix, or some of these other quarterbacks. Like I've
I
been
think
saying,
they might be in position to get Jalen Daniels, the Heisman Trophy winner from
I'm
LSU.
hearing a lot of mixes. Jaden Daniels could go number 3 to New England, or he could go in the middle of the first round. There's a lot of inconsistencies after Caleb Williams and Drake May. Um, for Atlanta, I keep saying I think their best option is to call Chicago and ask for Justin Fields. Like, I think that your best option to go out and get a quarterback. You don't have to pay Fields for another year or two. And if Fields isn't good next year, you're going to be right at the top of the draft. And, maybe you fire Raheem Morris and maybe Belichick's available then. Who knows? But Atlanta's got pieces. Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Bijan Robinson, a very good and underrated offensive line. Jesse Bates is still there. Calais Campbell is still there. You just need the quarterback. And by the way, in that division, again, who knows how Dave Canales is going to work in Carolina? I suggest, or I should say, I forecast Baker Mayfield will have a slight regression since he left Tampa Bay. New Orleans is a mess. I don't think Derek Carr and Dennis Allen are going to last the year next year. So there's an opportunity there for Atlanta to win quick if they get everything in place.
I agree with you. Um, but before we finish off this topic, I want to talk about this. Not your Eagles and not my Browns. What the heck are the Pittsburgh Steelers doing? Why
Oh,
they
hiring Arthur Smith as their offensive coordinator. Now, this is a very interesting hire. Because I'll say this: the one thing we know that Arthur Smith does do well is he may not know how to use all his running backs, but he uses a lot of running backs, and he uses a lot of tight ends. And the one thing the Steelers have, very good tight end Pat Fryermuth, a good offensive line, two very good backs, and who knows, maybe they even move on from Najee Harris. As a play caller in Tennessee, Arthur Smith got Ryan Tannehill his best year. The question for the Steelers is going to be, can Arthur Smith get the best out of Kenny Pickett? My guess is no. And the Steelers are, again, such a defensive rigid culture, as I've said multiple times, so they're going to stick with Kenny Pickett as long as they can, even though they shouldn't. But that's the bottom line there. This hire is all about Kenny Pickett because the Steelers are the fourth best quarterback in their division, and we all know you can't win that way.
see? My thing is what we saw from Arthur Smith in Atlanta. He didn't use the likes of Bijan Robinson. He didn't use Drake London. He barely used Kyle Pitts. At times, I need to put an APB out for Kyle Pitts. Coming to Pittsburgh, he has Jalen Warren. He has Najee Harris, like you mentioned. He has Pat Fryermuth. But don't forget about Deontay Johnson and George Pickens. Like, that's where I'm most confused because Deontay Johnson and George Pickens have shown that they can be really good to great wide receivers.
I would say good. I always thought both of them were very overrated. And I know you're a Browns fan. Again, I'm a Browns observer. I'm not saying that as somebody from Cleveland. I'm saying that objectively. I think Deontay
As am
Johnson
I.
I think Deontay Johnson's more of a three in a really good Super Bowl caliber offense. I think George Pickens is more of a two in a really good Super Bowl caliber offense. For Pittsburgh, that they're 1 and 2. So I think Arthur Smith, again, yes, he didn't use them properly, but he does use a lot of running backs, which Pittsburgh has. He does use a lot of tight ends, which Pittsburgh has. He had a very good offensive line in Atlanta. He had a good offensive line in Tennessee when he was there. As a play caller, which is different than a head coach, how
Right,
many
I
times
understand that.
how many times have we seen head coaches, be better OCs or better DCs than head coaches? It happens. I don't think it's a great hire, but I think you could have certainly done worse. Is all I'm saying. We'll see. I think it's an upgrade from what they had.
Yeah. Just to touch on the Browns super quick. I I don't know all the details of why Alex Van Pelt was let go, but they bring in Ken Dorsey. But I'm like, what's the point of having an offensive coordinator if your freaking head coach is the one calling the plays? Because we know Stefanski is the one calling the plays. So I'm like,
can I answer that? Because
go ahead.
there's a misnarrative out there that that's all offensive coordinators do is call plays, and that is completely wrong. There's a reason why guys like Kevin O'Connell, Zach Taylor, of course, now the Vikings and Bengals head coaches in the McVay tree, never called plays under McVay. They got head coaching jobs. Why Matt LaFleur, who never called plays before, got a head coaching job, et cetera, et cetera. Nick Sirianni, by the way, did not call plays in Indianapolis, got a head coaching job. A coordinator's job is not just to call plays, but a coordinator, and actually, I think Sirianni has spoken about this, Stefanski has spoken about this. The coordinators in practice are actually the ones that do the coaching. When you are a coordinator, you are coaching the offense in practice. The OC, the QB coach, the tight ends coach, etc. All those coaches are working together. And so while the head coach, if he's the play caller, is calling the plays in game, during practice, he's mostly doing the walk around and organizational type things where the coaches are the ones running the drills, working with the players, running the meetings. So that's what Dorsey will do. Now, my concern is Josh Allen, as we both said, regressed under Ken Dorsey. Dorsey did call the plays. I don't believe Dorsey is going to be calling the plays. It sounds like Stefanski is still going to be calling the plays. We'll see. Obviously, Dorsey played for the Browns. He knows the team, knows the area. And so we'll see. I just thought it was an interesting hire.
And let's just talk about it. What did you think of the Eagles hiring Kellen
Oh,
Moore?
I absolutely love it. Not only Kellen Moore, but Vic Fangio as well. Two experienced play callers. Fangio, obviously, head coach in Denver. I thought Kellen Moore last year was going to become the Chargers interim head coach before Staley got fired, which I thought was going to happen way earlier in the season. I don't think Kellen Moore. I think he got a lot of blame last year for an offense that was falling apart. They had a lot of injuries. Austin Eckler missed a lot of time. Mike Williams was out. Keenan Allen was out. Their offense looked like a complete show of themselves. He runs a lot more motion. He runs a lot more under center. I think it's going to be a different look. I think he's a very good play caller. I think the fact that he knows the Cowboys, he knows the Giants, he knows the Commanders will help Philly. I think Vic Fangio, bringing an experienced guy just to run that side of the ball, let him be the head coach of the defense, the way your Browns and Jim Schwartz is the head coach of the defense over there, is the right move. And I'm hoping for that sake that both moves work out. And I do objectively like both hires.
I feel like this adds to the Dallas-Philadelphia rivalry a little bit. Not that it needs any more fuel to the fire, obviously, but we know the history. Kellen Moore was the offensive coordinator in Dallas for a while, and then Mike McCarthy said, no, I'm taking over offensive play calling, and Kellen Moore was pushed out the door, and now he's with the Cowboys' biggest rival in the Eagles. I do think this adds to the rivalry between the two teams. Do you agree with that?
Like 1%.
I didn't mean it added to the rivalry in like a huge way. No.
In a way it does. I think it adds more from the Dallas side than the Philly side, because Philly fans, we're not thinking, oh, we got the former Cowboys OC. We're thinking we got Kellen Moore. Dallas and Detroit thinking, oh, we don't need Kellen Moore anyways. We weren't as good without him. So from the Dallas perspective, I think it adds more than the Philly perspective.
Fair enough.